we are playing this game as part of the Gauntlet, an online gaming community, and so in keeping with that, there are a number of kind of procedures that we will be following. And one of the things I always like to do is to kind of just make sure that everybody has a good understanding of the kind of game that we are looking for. And so on that lines and veils sheet, I go through the concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So this game that we are playing tonight is Beyond the Wall, which could be described as folk rural fantasy role-playing game. And there's a lot that it is working with that is driven by some of the basic mechanics of basic expert Dungeons and Dragons. The idea of this game is that the players will be taking on the roles of characters who are young adults who are coming of age in a village, and they are going to be kind of learning about kind of new things about themselves and about each other and about the world in the course of the game. The aim of the game, it's about adventure, but it's also about friendship and the importance of standing up for your community. We will start off in a village, and part of what we'll be engaged in tonight is kind of fleshing out our characters, but also as we do this, finding out a little bit more about the village that these characters are living in and their role in the village. The tone of the game is aiming for low fantasy adventure. If you know the works of Ursula Le Guin or Lloyd Alexander, that's the kind of uh, I think part of the literary background that brought this game into being. And in terms of subject matter, we'll be aiming for something around a PG-13 rating. And the game is designed to present the characters with new hurdles and challenges, and those may sometimes involve encountering evil and dangerous forces that might be intent on doing them harm or perhaps causing harm to the village or other people in the village. In terms of safety tools, we have a number that are going to be used in this game. First of all, the X card. If the game ever goes into a direction that you know is not going to be safe or fun for you, please say X card, or you can put an X in front of you, and we will immediately stop, backtrack, and take a different direction. I also would as the game master, I'm often looking at different screens. So if somebody is holding something visually in front of them, I may not notice it because I may be looking at a different screen. So I'll ask with safety that everybody is kind of responsible for the safety. So right, if the X card is kind of going up and you see that, but I don't seem to be noting it, please alert me and the others to what is going on. Lines and veils, and I had already put a couple of these up on this chart that's on the lines and veils sheet, but I would encourage you to kind of look at that. And a line would be some type of content area where we are explicitly saying that is not going to be part of the game in any respect. A veil would be something which could be mentioned in the game, but it would not be covered in any kind of detail. It would be kind of mentioned, but then we would be kind of passing on. One other important safety tool is the open door policy, which one of the important aspects of the open door policy is if for any reason you need to leave the game, that is perfectly fine. But if there's an emergency that emerges, which has happened to me before. I had one of my kids got burned in the middle of a role playing game, and I had to kind of like stop and kind of attend to them. But it could be anything, or if maybe there's something going on in the game where you're just like, okay, this is not really what I thought it was going to be, or whatever. Feel free to avail yourself of the open door policy. Maybe next we will just. I have a Beyond the Wall reference sheet, and I want to kind of quickly get us into character creation, but I put this kind of quick little cheat sheet together, which kind of goes through the basic mechanics. Your character is going to have various abilities, and if that ability comes into play as a result of some challenging situation, you're going to roll a 20-sided die and attempt to roll equal to or less than your ability, and there may be adjustments made to that. One thing is during character creation, your character will get certain skills. And if during the play there's a challenging situation or some type of resolution that has to happen, and you have a skill that applies, that would give you a bonus to the roll. And the skill is not uh, uh, tied to any specific ability. So that, for example, if you had boating as a skill, it may be that for one check, your dexterity handling the boat would come into play. And so you would be adding that skill bonus to the dexterity. But there might be another situation where perhaps you're evaluating boats to see which one is the most seaworthy. And that would be more of an intelligence roll, but that would also be a situation where the boating skill could be applied. Okay. You're going to have saving throws where, in that case, you're going to be trying to roll high for success if you are trying to make a saving throw. And on combat, you are also going to be aiming to roll high on the D20. It is the kind of basic D&D setup where you're going to be, if their combat is happening and you're trying to hit something, you roll to hit, and if you get success with that, you'll be able to make a damage roll. Your character will have what are called fortune points. If you are a rogue, you will have 5 of those. Other characters start with 3, and there are going to be 3 different situations where you can choose to expend a fortune point. You can use it to help a friend, um, or you can if you've made a roll and you would like to re-roll and you have a fortune point, you can spend a fortune point for that, and you can also spend a fortune point to cheat death. So it may be wise to keep at least one fortune point in your back pocket in case that necessity arises. Um, Magic, I think in terms of the nuts and bolts, we can kind of get into this when we play the game. But if you are able to use magic, there are 3 different types of magic, which have slightly different rules that apply to them. I generally I don't like tinkering with the mechanics of games. I like to kind of play them straight up. But one exception with this is I came up with a special cantrip roll rule where if you with a cantrip you have to roll an ability in order for the cantrip to successfully go off, and if you do not get a success, then you have to decide whether you're going to have that cantrip result in some unexpected unintended consequences, or you can decide to say, okay, I don't want to have the unintended consequences. I will just kind of say that my magic has gotten all used up until the time that my character can get a rest. Um, that didn't entirely sit well with me. I thought, well, if you're deciding that you're going to kind of give up all of your magic until you get a rest, I'm going to give you one other roll on a 6-sided die to see what happens with that cantrip that you were trying to cast. Okay, so that's just a little addition that I've made. Um, the true name rules, these might in fact come into play uh, in our opening scenario, but in the world of Beyond the Wall, spirits, magical creatures have true names, and if you can learn the true name of a spirit or magical creature, that would give you certain bonuses when you are kind of working against that creature. And as I say, some legends say that everybody possesses a true name at birth. So it may be that your character also have true names, but you may not know them currently. Um, okay, and experience and levels. I don't think at this point that we really need to say anything about that, but we will kind of get to that as we kind of work through the gameplay. Keith, I have you down for the Witch's Prentice. Is that correct? Okay, and Jason, is it Tochi? Okay, the Lord's Secret. Okay, Jason Zane's the heir to a legend, and David, you are the young woodsman. Okay. So let's start off, and you can use the roll for your party, but and what you may want to do with this is everybody can grab a different color if you want to use the roll for your party. And so what we're going to do is we'll start off just with the first chart. Everybody's going to roll a d12, my favorite die to roll. And then you will kind of look at what that gives you. You'll need to kind of then keep track of. You're going to get certain things added to some of your ability scores. You may also, while we're doing this, be picking up certain skills and other things. Okay. Um, oh, and also you will see that you have the little scroll on this, and what the scroll means is that in addition to figuring out what result this gives you, you should also be adding some location to the map. The location could have to do with what the result is. Like, for example, one of the results on one of them is your father was the local smith and taught you both hammer and bellows. You may want to put on the map the location of the smith's forge, right? Where is the smith's forge? But it does not necessarily have to be. Okay. And you should all have editing rights on that. But once you have rolled, if you want to kind of quickly tell me what you got with that.
Robbie, do you mind if we use real dice, or would you rather us use the roll for your party?
No, I don't mind you using real dice if you want to use.
Okay.
Okay.
So just roll a d12. Is that what we're doing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I got myself a 1, which on the Witch's Prentice, and I think most of them is an orphan. Things were hard for me.
Okay.
So starting to understand how I got hooked up with the witch.
Right, and then you're gonna add 2 to wisdom, 2 to constitution, and 1 to intelligence.
As the Lord's Secret, I rolled a 4. How did your noble family earn its name? Knowledge. Your family deals in secrets and lore. So I'll be adding to intelligence, constitution, and wisdom with a skill of forbidden secrets.
Right.
I got a 12. Your father was a local merchant. You learned to name your price and charm your customers.
Okay.
I got a 4. Your family worked a small farm outside the village.
Okay.
And we should go ahead and like I could put like my father's merchant stall somewhere.
Correct.
At this point.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And as I say, like with Keith, since you were an orphan, things were hard for you. The location does not necessarily have to be tied to that. Although it could be, right? I mean, as as an orphan, things were hard for you. Maybe there was a particular place at the village that was kind of important for you, that kind of gave you some sense of security or something like that.
What is the location that we already have on the village? Heffen's Tier or maybe Terre?
Yeah, Heffen's Tier. That is the well, they say the inn. I think of it more as like a kind of community hall that people would go to for at the end of the day they could kind of go there for drinks and refreshment, but also kind of a central place in the village that people would kind of gather if they uh, had wanted to have a meeting or something like that.
Okay, so we're drawing our little spots on here.
Correct.
Okay, so the village is kind of at the top. It's in this. Is the box like representative of the village, or
Oh
is that
no,
just
no, no.
like where they live
This
on
is
the
all.
outside?
Yeah, the box at the top is just the name of the village. Heffen's Tier is a building that would be kind of at the center of the village
Oh, I
somewhere, kind of
see. So,
a central location. Yeah.
so I'm trying to draw a farm outside the village. So I'm trying to figure out where the borders of the village are.
What I might do is you could just at the edge say farm, and then maybe like I did with the manor, I just put an
Just draw an
arrow.
arrow.
Right? You can just put an arrow, kind of pointing out, just as an indication that that farm would be kind of somewhere out in that direction.
Okay, I gotcha. And do we add any color about it or anything, or are we just like just calling it a thing for now?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to for you to say something about that location.
Okay, so I think this is. We'll just call it the farm out of Eastgate. And it's notable because it's the only farm out of Eastgate because nobody wants to farm out there for some reason. I don't know why yet.
Okay. Do you know what is grown on the farm?
Um, people say we just grow rocks on the farm, but I think we actually managed to bring up whatever we can in season. I think we farm. I think we farm corn and we sell the corn, but we actually make a lot of things out of the reeds and things too.
Okay.
So there's like a business, like the main business of corn and the side business of like corn husk items.
Okay.
I'm assuming that the manor is where the nobles live, which is where my character lives. So I should come up with something else for our location.
Um, no, I think it would be fair to, because I am curious, since you do have somebody with ties to the manor. It would be perfectly fine if you want to just kind of fill us in on some information about the manor. That would be fine.
Okay. Let me get back to you on that one. Apparently, it's a castle, according to this playbook.
All right, I have created Oswald's stable and livery. I'm picturing that is connected to my past. That was one of the places that I would find someone who was willing to look away while I snuck under a somewhat warm roof in the top of his stable. And I guess that's also an NPC over here as well.
And I've got Garen and Son Fine Furs, the merchant stall. Garen's my father. I'll add that to the NPC list.
I do, so Garen and Son, Fine Furs. David, in your woodsman ability, are you, do you imagine that you have some dealings with the merchant with the fur business?
Probably. Yeah, I imagine we run into each other if nothing else. So, is the fur business like you buy and sell and tan and leather, or you go and collect the furs yourself?
I guess I would imagine people like you would bring them to us and we would treat them and then sell them.
Okay.
Or prepare them for I imagine we're just a small village, right? Maybe we ship them off to the regional town or, somewhere where we can earn some coin.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I probably have, and people I know have probably bought and sold furs to you, probably mostly selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can with characters we can just put kind of notes up here, and then by next week I can kind of get them in more tidy order. I know I have a tab on the character keeper to kind of add some add things there, so we can keep that organized there. Um, and then uh, Jason, you want to tell us a little bit about uh, the manor, the castle?
Sure, yeah. It's a small castle, but seeing as how that noble family is known for their forbidden secrets, they have a small library that draws scholars and pilgrims from all around. Of course, those secrets are forbidden, so the pilgrims are there to admonish, beg to burn heretical books, and so on, or perhaps bring some back to be for further study. I make it sound like it's books with dirty pictures or something like that, but no. Yeah, there's magic in there. Who knows?
Okay. All right. So let's go on to the second table. Now it's a D8. It's very exciting. You get to roll all sorts of different die. So this one, I think most of you, it's how did you distinguish yourself as a child?
I got a one again. Sorry. Children often fight, but you never lost.
Okay.
So a bit of a scrapper.
I got your empathy makes you a sought-after confidant.
Okay.
I have the same thing. Your empathy made you a sought-after confidant.
Okay.
Everyone has something to teach, and you learned a little from them all.
Okay. Yeah, so that one kind of gives you a little bit of everything: a little wisdom, little intelligence, little dexterity. Okay, if you go to the next one, this is another D8, and was going to tell us about somebody else in the village who befriended you. And that has a little hand by it, which means that we'll add some NPC to the mix. with this one.
My family's seneschal taught me games of strategy and skill.
You are about to marry into the Miller's family. So I'll add the Miller,
Okay.
maybe my betrothed.
The old widow needed help around the house.
I think she needed a lot of help. That's also the one that I got.
Apparently.
Yeah, many
Should I
ways.
re-roll or same old widow?
I think it works as a connection.
Yeah, it could work as a connection. So who had the old widow?
Both me and which class are you?
And the
David, or
The Woodsman.
okay. I kind of like that because I can picture myself out gathering herbs as well, and maybe finding reasons to accompany you. Were you one of the confidants?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I add a river for the Miller?
Yeah, no, I think definitely having a river nearby makes sense. Are you happy about being about to marry into the Miller's family?
Sure. Who wouldn't be? She's a beauty.
Yeah, and what do we can we say any more just briefly about the old widow?
Yeah. What do we want to know about her? So she needs help. So I'm feeling like if these two kids are helping her out, then she probably doesn't have any other kin around here.
Yeah.
And maybe whoever she was married to was not someone that was super popular. Let's see. Do you have anything to hook that onto in the map?
Okay, let me see here.
I am kind of curious as to, why. I mean, she does seem to need a lot of help. I'm curious as to whether there's anything that kind of drew you to her. I mean, is there anything that's kind of you know, made being in proximity to her helpful or useful or fascinating or
I think for me, it would definitely be a surrogate mother figure.
Mhm.
Like she's out on her own and I'm out on my own. And I'm also wondering if maybe she did something to piss off the royal family, or they're not royals, but the noble family, I guess, nearby. And maybe that's why the people that maybe should be helping her are not, and she's relying on the kindness of people that either don't know better or are kind of enjoying the transgression of helping her out.
Mhm. One thing that I should have said, and I think actually, hopefully this doesn't kind of throw us for a loop, but I think that the more important roles are coming up. Um, the rules say that if you roll up on one of these charts and you do not like the result for whatever reason, you have a one-time free pass where you can say, "Oh, instead of taking that roll, I want to take this one." Okay, so on a one-time deal, right? You can kind of choose to kind of preemptively just ignore one roll and just choose something else that seems more interesting to you on the list. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next chart, and this sequence is kind of giving us a little bit of the background of kind of your craft, kind of how you have acquired some of the special abilities and skills that you have. And this is a D6. So let me know when you have
Okay, so mine is, what stories did your father tell of his past? And I've got two. He stopped a mighty necromancer from summoning an army of the dead, which would have destroyed the land.
Okay.
Although I think I'm going to use my freebie on that.
Okay.
And I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it to, he slew a great worm who made its home in a volcano to the south.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and part of the idea of the heir to a legend is that most people think he's full of hot air, right? That right, he's the guy who has these stories, but most people in the village don't hold much stock by his
Right.
stories. Right.
Mine was, why did the witch choose you to be her apprentice? She was impressed by the old stories and the lore that filled your head, which I think I probably got directly from my previous role of Deirdre the Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Shared with me a lot of knowledge about this land and kind of started raising me up in that path.
Okay. And David, what did you get?
So I'm answering, what have you learned in the wild places? And I rolled a 1, so you hunt large game in the wilderness.
Okay. Which then kind of also, if you want to go with that, makes kind of sense of the furrier connection, right? That would give you.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And
I'm
was.
looking at the most common rumor of your origin.
Mm-hmm.
I got due to your odd features and an ancient legend, some say that you are the human child of a dragon.
Okay.
It's number 5, power with things that grow.
Uh-huh.
So it is very druidy, which kind of leans into some of the things I was thinking to this character already. So.
David, do you have this one yet? Your hidden
Yeah,
talent?
I elected to select on this one since I hadn't done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked, you are able to work the skins from your kills. So just double down into that fur trapping trading thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and with the skills, like if you ever get a skill twice, what that does is it means you are especially an expert at that skill. So it gives you another like a skill normally would, if it comes into play on an ability check, would give you a +2 bonus. If it's like an expert skill, it would give you a +4. So if that ever comes up, right, you don't think, oh, I've already got that one. It still can be something that, right, would just kind of give you, even added advantage with that particular skill.
Gotcha. Cool.
Let me go check the. What do we got here? We got a river. Is Blackpool the name of the river, or is it that particular section of the river?
Let's say both. No, let's have that be Blackpool. The river can be. I was trying to think of that right now. It's probably more like a stream more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Winding water.
Okay.
Am I rolling on the next table? Sorry to walk away again.
Yeah. So the next table. And this one is also one of these ones where you can add another location onto the map.
Mine's how did your father teach you to fight? I got the two of you would spar long into the night. My specialization is with the longsword.
Yeah. Yeah, so with the warrior, you have a weapon specialization, which makes you especially effective when you are using that weapon.
I may use my mulligan to change this one, but I should ask, what happens if you roll something that gives you a skill you already have?
Oh yeah. So in that case, you have an expertise in that skill. So instead of a +2 bonus, you would get a +4 bonus.
Gotcha.
So Jason, are you gonna take the mulligan, or are you gonna?
I'm gonna. I don't know. Maybe I'll check to see what the next thing is and backtrack if that makes sense.
Okay. What did you roll right now? What was?
So, how did the witch come to befriend you? I rolled a spirit from beyond was lurking somewhere within the castle, and the witch insisted you come with her to dispense of it, which would give +2 Constitution, +1 Intelligence, and the Forbidden Secret skill, and the Abjuration spell.
Okay. All right. So oh, and then let me on the map. Dreadsmoke Peak. Tell me a little bit about that.
That was mine. That was where my father went and slew the great worm or the great wyvern. I forget which it was. So it's probably a couple days journey. I think I read in here somewhere that we're in amongst the mountains or near the
Yes.
mountains.
Hmm.
So maybe it's like a volcano, in the that mountain range. And he traveled there allegedly and slew a great worm at some point. Yeah, great worm.
Have you ever seen it from afar? The peak?
I'm gonna say yeah. I think we probably can see it on a clear day. Probably smokes every once in a while.
Okay.
So I have a. Oh,
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, Dad said that they knew the worm was there because it was spewing lava and ash was covering the land. 20 years ago or whatever it was. Go ahead, David.
So I have a thought about Garen and Son find furs, and then some of what I've got going on with hunting large game in the wilderness and all.
Mm-hmm.
What would y'all think about if the large game out in the wilderness were something like sky beasts or something like that? Big animals that fly around that you could hunt. And some might be reptiles, some might be bird-like, some might be mammalian. So it might be Garen and Son find furs and skins or something like that.
Sure.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Are ability scores only relevant to skills and completely irrelevant to combat in this game?
No. And you can use an ability that doesn't have a skill attached to it. Okay. So what the skill does is, if it comes into play, it would give you a bonus to some type of an ability check. But if you're trying to do like for example, if you were trying to sneak behind somebody, we might say, okay, that would be employing dexterity. And if you had a stealth ability skill, right? If you had a stealth skill, that would give you a +2 bonus to the dexterity check.
I think that I was unclear. Sorry. What I'm asking is, I noticed that there's an attack bonus that characters have that is based on your level, and a lot of games that are superficially like this one, I would be looking at my character sheet right now and thinking, boy, my character's half warrior. It's problematic that I have a -1 strength, but it's also looking like I might not ever actually need to use strength in any kind of combat situation. Does that sound about right?
Right. Yes.
Great.
Mhm.
Then I may just take that abjuration and run with it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. You have a base attack bonus that comes from your class, okay, and then there are things that can add to that base attack bonus, which would include strength. If you're in hand to hand combat and you have great strength, uh, you may get like a strength bonus attached to that.
Okay.
And riffing on what David was saying, maybe these worms, infest this area, especially around the volcano. So they grow slowly, but if they get too big, then they become something really dangerous. So part of like our job, I guess, of our village is to try to keep their numbers down, so you don't get lots of the real big ones. And maybe that's what happened with my dad back in the days. One of these real big ones, evolved.
Yeah, there's probably like such a big variety of them that it's like, oh, there's little ones here and there and everywhere, and then like every once in a while, this giant thing will show up, and you're like, was that just a big one of the smaller ones, or was that like something else?
Right.
Right.
And who knows? And then like reptiles always grow to the size of whatever they feel like, based on their conditions, but like mammal ones and things like that may be different. I don't know.
I mean,
I think it'd be an interesting ecology.
yeah. So the ones that would be seen most commonly would be smaller ones, right? So, young ones in the village maybe even have never seen, right? Kind of these like larger ones, which is, they're kind of legendary, but, whether or not the legends are true about exactly how big they get, right? Maybe a question.
Right.
Yeah, maybe they get. Maybe some of them start out just eating plants and bugs and things, and then if they get too big, they start eating the smaller ones, and that's when they're like, "This is becoming a problem."
And is Deirdre's house and garden, is that the old woman?
Yeah, that was the widow.
Okay, that's the widow. Okay.
Yeah, as I was learning the druidic magic, her garden suddenly started growing much better than she was tending it. It was sort of my laboratory as I was practicing that.
Okay, and Jason Tochi, is there anything else you wanted to add to the map at this juncture?
Yeah, I may or may not end up actually changing my role on that to the thing from another. There's another thing here for besting a wicked knight from distant lands in the tourney field. I'm still trying to figure out exactly if I'm going to be
Okay.
changing to the tourney field, but I can add the tourney fields to this map either way, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
We'll say that there's a informal kind of tournament every year, and that it's mostly all in good fun with just villagers and some folk. It's one of the few times a year that the folks from the village and the folks from the nobility really feel like they get to be on even footing because they get to bang each other with stuff, and it's all in good fun. But every once in a while, they have like a big tournament that gathers people from much farther all around in other lands. Hence, wicked knights coming by every now and then.
All right, and then we can go to the next table. We're getting into the final stretch here. So you have another D6. Oh, and this also. Oh, and we need to figure out like who is the player on your right, because this next one's kind of interesting because it involves one of your friends on the village. So I'm just looking at my screen, and we'll do that. So on my screen,
Just-
um, uh, so on my screen, I'm trying to imagine this like being around a table. So it's the player on your right, correct?
I mean, we could do it on the character
Character
keeper.
keeper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
more sense. Yep.
Just have it scroll around.
Yeah.
So the player on my right would be Tanner, David. Um, something finally pushed you to make a name for yourself. What was it? The player to your right was there when it happened. A skilled fighter from another village came to town and challenged your father to a duel. You stood in his place and you won. The friend to your right protected you from the bully's friends and gains +1 strength. So David, your character gets +1 strength. And I get +2 strength.
Cool.
Yeah, and do you have any sense of why this person from another village came all the way to your town to challenge him? I mean, was it just because he was boastful, or was there some grudge, or do you know why? That seems kind of unusual. That
Well, Dad got into his drink later that night, and he was muttering about how this man was actually part of his party that went and fought the worm back in the day. And this other man claimed that he was the one that killed the worm, and he deserves the skull of the worm that's hidden in our closet or in our barn, I guess, or something.
and have you seen that skull?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't know I did, but I went back there and I dug it up, reburied it.
Okay. Let's maybe just work around this way. So, David, can we go to you next, and then this will apply to Jason Tochi's character, the Lord's Secret.
Okay. There are many forgotten paths in the woods, and you guard them all, but not always alone. The friend to your right has stood with you time and again on those paths and gains 1 strength.
That's me.
Yep.
That's great. Thanks.
Uh-huh. Maybe that bumps you up out of -1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious. So many forgotten paths, but the Lord's Secret has stood with you time and again on those paths. I'm kind of curious as to what's going on with that relationship. Are those paths that are kind of going around the manor castle area?
I think that I guard all of the paths, and the Lord's Secret guards some of the paths for his own reason, and I'm not sure why.
Okay.
This actually could be relevant to what I rolled on mine, which was another of the Lord's family went wandering too deep and became lost in the tunnels. So I don't know. Maybe there are paths through tunnels. I have no idea.
Yeah, that could be. And you just whenever I'm around the tunnels that I may or may not know exist, you show up and we guard them together.
Yeah, and then that. Okay, so another of the Lord's families went wandering too deep and became lost in the tunnels. The friend to your right, and so that would be Daphne Keith's character, right?
I think I'm actually that's going to be the one that I change actually.
Okay.
But we'll still have tunnels.
Okay.
I'm going to swap this one to a band of goblins. We're tunneling into the passages beneath the pantries, so yeah, there's definitely passages beneath the manor and through the hills and so on and so forth. The friend of your right fought by your side in a desperate battle and gains +1 strength. So the friend of my right would be
That's Keith.
go all the way around.
Daphne.
Keith, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And so gets 1 strength from that, right? Well, and that one makes kind of sense with the witch's Prentice, partly with the kind of goblin connection that might be something that the witch's Prentice would be tied into or be kind of helpful, right, in that kind of a
We're
fight.
always putting down goblins. They are all over the place.
Okay, and then
Keith, did you roll yours yet?
Yes. And
What-
I have actually decided to change it because I didn't like the one that came up. So I have, you always paid close attention when the witch went into the woods. You learned all of the hidden paths and mystical places there. So definitely a lot of hidden paths going on. And the friend to your right has often traveled these paths with you and gains +1 intelligence.
Okay. That's me.
So that is Martin.
Yep. +1 intelligence. Okay.
And just to make sure I have people straight, Martin's father is the one that has the fine furs and skins.
That's right.
Okay, so that makes sense that you would also be walking those hidden paths of the woods for looking for different things than I am, but
Right.
still treading them.
Yeah, and I do have a question about the merchant. So let me go back to the. So this is Garen and Son, Fine Furs. Um, is so there's a merchant stall in the village. Is there also travel outside the village on the kind of a merchant route, or does this pretty much stay kind of fixed there and have other people kind of coming from the surroundings to uh, trade or purchase?
I'm imagining what we were saying about that it's also furs and skins that we're hunting these worms that they're pretty exotic. So I imagine we treat them, we can't we buy them from, maybe like David's character or other people that are going out there and hunting. We treat the skins and then we send them off to like a larger market, where there's a lot more money. The small village is probably not, doesn't have the market for the kind of stuff that we're selling.
Okay.
But maybe we sell, more basic stuff, like fox furs and stuff like that to the village people. Even maybe we sell it to the noble. Maybe the noble, has connections to, the greater rich people network.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, and then let's go to the final table, which often brings up some interesting object that you have.
I got last autumn, you visited the market at a nearby village and found an item that reminded you of your father's stories. What was it? The diary of one of your father's former companions. I like it. So I get intelligence in a small book. So it might be the diary of maybe that same guy that came to our village.
Mm-hmm.
And it proves that indeed my father had actually run away when the worm appeared, and this other man had actually killed it. But my father ended up with the skull.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if the diary was the diary of that fellow, did you steal it? I mean, the diary. I mean, how did you come to possess it?
I'm thinking, how dark do we want to go? Try this and see what you think, Robbie. I think when he came and there was the duel and I fought against him in my father's place, I killed him. And his companions were chased off by, who was that? I think it was David's character. and they sold this diary in the in the next door village. They sold this diary to some trinket dealer, and I happened to come across it. And
Okay.
like I said, it proves that my father is indeed a liar, or that I killed someone I probably shouldn't have, at least.
Okay. That sounds cool. All right. Who else on this last?
For mine, it is where is the witch now? For long months, she has been tending someone in dangerous pregnancy, which of course raises the question of who is that going to be?
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if we want to make it someone from the manor.
Okay.
That's the kind of person that could disappear for a few months without like really causing a ruckus. If someone from the village were gone for any amount of time, they would be missed. But someone from the manor, oh, they're on holiday or something, or they're taking the air for their health. But I'm not sure who it would be. Who's our character that has a connection to the manor?
That's the Lord's secret.
Okay. Is there someone that you think might have a pregnancy that either they're hiding or they're hiding the extent how dangerous it might be?
Someone to be hiding a pregnancy?
Or at least that it is dangerous, I would think.
Yeah, and it doesn't specify how it's dangerous, right? I mean, right, that could be health danger, but it doesn't have to be. It could be dangerous for some other reason.
We've only established so many characters. The first one that occurred to me was the witch, but that's not necessarily around the manor.
And she's also tending to the person, so.
Oh, right. I missed that part. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, if there's no one that comes up, I just didn't know if there's someone that implied in your backstory that we wanted to add a wrinkle to.
The only other character I came up with was the seneschal, whose gender is indeterminate at this stage. I put down they them for their pronouns. I don't know that their pregnancy would be dangerous, though.
I mean, we could also just leave it open ended that there's something secretive. The witch's apprentice knows that the witch is going to tend to somebody, knows that there's a pregnancy involved, but that the witch is keeping mum about it, right? And so that may be something we could, if we don't want to establish it now, it could be something that could be revealed later on as to what exactly that secretiveness is all about.
It sounds good. Then we have that arrow in the quiver.
Yeah. And then you have a lucky charm then that comes to you.
I'm picturing some sort of necklace of dried and plated herbs.
Okay. All right, and then who else? We got, what did our young woodsman find here?
I found, where to go? Some strange ruins built of foreign stones long abandoned but recently reclaimed. So a piece of an ancient marble statue.
Okay. Yeah, that's what you found that in the woods, and nobody else knows about it.
Yeah.
Could we maybe we have to kind of keep in mind that nobody else knows about it, but what direction on the map would you imagine that these ruins were?
I think as players, we can know they were near all of those tunnels, even though I don't necessarily know where the tunnels are. I think that would be interesting. Have we marked where those are?
Those are associated with the manor, so they would be in that direction.
Yeah.
Let me. I'm going to. So strange ruins.
Strange ruins built of foreign stones.
Yeah, and we'll just add an arrow.
Yeah, we can just make them like true north instead of northwest.
Okay. Oops. Get rid of that. Okay. All right, and then let's see. The Lord's Secret. Do you have your item?
Yeah, it ain't easy ain't making it any easier to find an appropriate illustration for this character. It just keeps getting weirder looking. Okay, so I have to find somebody who's got dragon tattoos, excuse me, dragon-like features, and also strange arcane or foreign markings that's written as strange tattoos. And the playbook also specifies under the items that I should be picking up things like an unusual feature like small horns or claw-like fingers. So it's like, sure, I'm looking for pictures now. Yeah, so.
Okay.
And +2 Constitution.
Okay, so yeah, what token was with you when your lord brought you home? You had some arcane or foreign markings on you.
That's it.
Okay. So, and that completes it for everybody. Is that correct? Yes. So, if you tally up everything, you should then you know have your final strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence. You have some skills and abilities. Um, oh, and if you go to the last page of your playbook, it will tell you what to put in for your saving throws. Okay, and we're going to be starting at first level here. So the saving throws are kind of determined by your level and what whether you're a rogue or a magic user or a warrior. Uh, if you're a rogue type, you will have 5 fortune points, and this should probably tell you on the at the end of the play sheet, tell you how many fortune points you have, uh, how many hit points you have, and there may be a constitution bonus if your constitution is high enough that would add to your hit points. Um, your armor class is usually 10 plus your dexterity bonus plus if you have some type of armor that comes with your character. And at the end of the last bit of the charts, when it says fill out your sheet, it will tell you some other items that you have. For example, the heir to the legend begins with a dagger, peasant's clothing, your father's sword, leathers, a single coin made from pure platinum, and 46 silver. So everybody should have a short little list of other objects that you have.
Is it okay if I spend some of my silver and get a shield from the start, or would you rather do that in play?
No, I think it would be okay to do that, and I can tell you how much a shield.
I've got it.
Got it?
I got the rule book. Yep.
Okay.
It's 10, but it's a simple shield is 1 silver if anybody wants one. A reinforced shield is 10 silvers.
And the simple gives you +1 AC, and the reinforced shield gives you +2 AC.
Yep.
The witch's Prentice cannot wear armor. being a mage.
Is there an easy document for the weapon damage?
Um, I'll just kind of quickly go through it there. So it's a very simple system. If you have a dagger, sling, club, or wooden practice sword, it's a D4 damage that you get. A spear, staff, mace, bow, short sword, or hand axe is a D6. A long sword, battle axe, or longbow is D8. And a great sword, great axe, lance, or halberd is a D10. And those D10 weapons are kind of two-handed weapons. So, okay. And what I was thinking of doing, we've been here for a little bit over an hour. I was thinking I have 9:18. Could we want to maybe take a break till 9:30 and come back and we can start to play? What is what the place where they kind of give you for your bedroom? What is that like? What kind of a room does it look like?
Um, well, we'll say that they tried to raise me like one of the family, but I certainly don't have stuff that is as nice as everyone else. And most nights I end up just falling asleep on a couch in the library. Um, but if we want to say about what my actual room is, um, it is a small, modestly furnished room with a bed and a desk and
Okay.
a wardrobe.
Okay, but yeah, I like that idea that you often fall asleep in the library, and let's say that that was the case last night, and you were in that kind of in between state where maybe you were just dreaming, or maybe you were actually awakened by a couple of voices in the library. It was dark. All of the candles, lanterns had been kind of snuffed out, so it was quite dark, and so you really couldn't see who this was that was uh, talking. But when you woke up, you think that you still remember them saying something about the king being risen, that the king had risen again. Um, and let me get you also to see uh, if you're able to determine anything else from this. Go on and roll your wisdom. And and
Okay.
and actually, you also do you have that forbidden knowledge skill?
I do.
All right, so that will apply. So you're going to roll on wisdom. You get a +2 bonus. You're going to roll a d20 and try to.
Oh, I'm an expert in forbidden secrets, so I believe I'm rolling a +4 on that because it came up
Yep.
twice during my little life path thing.
Hmm.
All right, and my wisdom is at 0, so let's see what happens. I rolled a 9.
You just have to roll equal to or below the number, right? I don't think the
Yes.
modifier matters.
I rolled a 5 on my die, and I have a +4 to forbidden whatever.
I think that just means you have to roll 14 or less. It's like you add 4 to your wisdom. Is that right,
Correct.
Robbie?
That
I
that
should
is
have read the
correct
rules
on
more
this.
carefully.
Yeah, on this
Sorry.
one, that is correct. Yeah, so yeah, you would have had to roll a 14 or less, and so you got this. So, um, you also think that you were able to distinguish a name, and the name that still sticks in your memory, I have to go consult my notes now, is Hrok. Hrok. The transformed is what you think they were talking about. Um, yeah, but as I say, it was kind of in that kind of delirious state that you were kind of in and out. Maybe it's do you usually sleep well when you're sleeping in the library? Is that a comfortable place for you?
No, I frequently wake up with nightmares, and I don't know why I keep falling asleep there. I just can't put the books down. They're just, so
Okay.
forbidden.
Uh, all right, but anyway, that's what happened to you in the evening. And then let's go. We're going to work in reverse order to David. If you'll give me a roll on a D12.
Okay. So I got a 7.
All right. A couple days ago, you were going into the woods. It was like particularly deep into the woods. It was like a part off to the north of the village, um, and it was one of these things where you had wandered out so far that you knew that you weren't going to make it back for you wouldn't make the return trip the same day, right? That you knew that you were going to be kind of uh, setting up camp out there and sleeping. But the weather was nice. It was a kind of clear sky. All the stars were up, and when you kind of gazed up in the middle of the night, you actually had been noticing that there were some shooting stars uh, going off, and one of those shooting stars, very unusual. You'd never seen this before, but you kind of saw it, you know, blazing off in the distance, and you suddenly, you know, you kind of watch this fireball kind of passing across the sky, and it passed overhead, and then you heard the earth shake, right? I mean, it seemed like it landed some distance to the north, right? That this kind of fireball falls out of the sky, and it seemed like a kind of slight earthquake uh, that had happened. Um, what would you do in that situation?
Um, is it like traveling distance close, or is it like I need to wait till the morning kind of to travel for a day close?
It was close enough that you could hear the explosion.
Okay. I think I'll like take a couple of sticks or something and like drive one into the ground in the direction, like the two of them in the direction that I think that they were, to make like a line near my camp. So in case I can't find it tonight, I can come back to my camp and try again in the morning, and then I'll head off in that direction.
Okay. Um, yeah. So you do that. That seems like a very kind of wise woodsman tactic to use. And I would say that after a little bit of time passes, Uh, you even seem to be kind of picking up some type of burning smell. Now you kind of look up there at night, and it doesn't seem like the forest has kind of erupted in flame or anything like that. But yeah, there does seem to be a kind of a burning smell in the air. You get up the next morning, you kind of take your bearings on those two sticks that you had put into the ground, and you set off. And in a few hours, you're in a kind of part. It's forest, but there are also these kind of rocky hills that are kind of appearing a little further north, and you kind of notice uh, after you've traveled a couple of hours, you notice in one of those hills a you know somewhere where it looks like, oh, there's been a large object that has just kind of blasted into this hill, right? There's a big, I mean, crater may be too large, but it looks like from some distance you can kind of pick out where there seems to have been something that kind of has kind of pulverized into the hill.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely try and investigate that and figure out what it's about.
All right, so you kind of move up and kind of get to that cavity. It's this big, something like a crater that is there, and you see at the bottom of that kind of crater a it's like a black stone. It doesn't look really well. I mean, it's like a small boulder. It looks like that's kind of down there at the bottom.
Okay, is it like I like kind of tap it and see how warm it is, and if I can. Is it like hot still?
A little bit. I mean, not so hot that it's gonna be, scalding, but there's a little bit of heat there.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll try and is it so big that I couldn't move it?
If you're gonna try to move it, why don't we roll your strength and see how you do with that?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll try and use my like harpoon and try and lever it a little bit. So, all right. So how do I do this roll? A d20 and
You're a pretty strong guy, right?
yeah, yeah.
So you have a 17, so you want to roll a 17 or less.
Oh, okay, great. Uh, where did it go? Oh, just kidding. Okay. There. Okay, we got a 7, so we're good.
Yeah, you're able to kind of lever it out, and it's actually kind of, there's also another kind of chunk when you kind of lever it up. There's another kind of chunk that kind of breaks off from it, and it actually, with that other chunk, the big one would be too much for you to. I mean, you might be able to carry it a few feet, but kind of getting that all the way back right now would be beyond you. But you could, I think, pretty easily carry the other part if you wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, I will take that and probably try and figure out what it is if I can at all. Like, is it metal? Is it stone? Is it something else?
Yeah, it seems very strange to you, and it whatever it is. I mean, it's heavy. I mean, for the size, or right, there's a density to it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it does strike you as somewhat metallic, yeah, in nature, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right, and then let's go to Martin. If you roll a d12.
12. All right. 10.
Um, you see where this would make sense. You were uh around the time of Twilight, came across the witch. We should probably give her a name. Have we given her a name yet?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. All right. Okay, so Martin, Evelyn hasn't been seen around the village very much of late. She seems to have been uh, somewhat secretive. Uh, but let's put this scene close to the tourney field. That she was kind of not in the tourney field, but you kind of saw her um, off, kind of looking very intently down. She was kind of in some underbrush. She was kind of looking intently down in the underbrush, and you would periodically uh, you see her kind of picking things up, looking at them, smelling them, sometimes putting some plants in a pouch.
So I think I would come right up to her and I would sort of like kneel down and I'd say, Mother Evelyn, I don't mean to disturb you, but I need your help. Do you have do you have a moment for me?
She looks over at you. How old is Evelyn? Is she elderly, young?
Yeah, I think she's pretty old. I think she's, let's see, medieval times. She's probably about 27. No, she's probably like, I don't know, 55 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had been very intent, and so didn't see you coming, and she kind of looks over at you and says, "Uh, you need my help? Uh, what is your need?"
Um, my father, I've discovered that he is a liar, and I must, if I'm going to marry, I must clean my soul. I must prove myself before the scar of his lies lie upon me. What can I do to be worthy of marriage?
Yeah. Uh, why do you come to me with this question?
You are the wisest of us. I hope that you would know what the gods would want me to do.
What the gods would want you to do to be worthy of the marriage?
Yes.
Um, why don't you? I think what seems appropriate here is to have a charisma roll.
Okay. I made it.
Okay. Um, well, she says, you clearly are worthy of your marriage, and it seems like really what you are asking for is for some information about your father. That you have kind of unsettled questions about your father. Is that accurate?
Yes. For my whole life, I've seen him as one thing, and now he's proven to be another. Uh, I can't sleep. I can't focus. I can't concentrate since I learned this.
She rummages in her pouch and uh, she says, "I have something that will help you. It will set your mind at rest." And she kind of kneels down, kind of pulls open a small piece of cloth, pulls various herbs out of these pouches that she has. Um, she has a little kind of a pestle, right? A kind of grinding thing that she kind of carries with her, and she kind of puts those together. She says, "Give me a second. Give me a second." And so she gets to work. Okay. And after about maybe 15 minutes, she has a small little pouch and she kind of has this kind of ground up stuff. And she says, "I am going to give this to you. It will make a, a tea and it will set your mind at rest. Um, it takes just a few little pinches in some pure boiling water to make the tea. Uh, and if you take that before you sleep, I don't know that it will give you the answers that you need, but it will set your mind at rest and will give you focus on the next day." Okay.
Thank you.
And I want to give a mechanical weight to this. So
Okay.
let's say that you have enough to make 5 cups of the tea, and if you drink the tea um, on the following day, it will give you. I'm thinking Constitution, right? It'll give you a +1 kind of Constitution bonus throughout the next day because you will sleep restfully and you'll kind of get up and you will have this extra fortitude for you the next day.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. And then finally, we are with Keith.
It was a 12.
D12, yes.
I got an. Oh no, okay, it did change. An 8.
Okay. A couple days ago, um, it, I don't imagine that your village gets a lot of traffic, but it does get some. I mean, we've already established that you have the fur and skin business that is going on that sometimes brings people. And a couple days ago, there was a small, say, a group of 4 people who appeared on horseback. They seemed to be interested in the fur and skin business and looking at what they were there. But one of the 4 was kind of accompanying these people that seemed kind of more kind of uh, more nobility type. But they brought with them one kind of strange uh, person who kind of was on a small horse with a cloak and the hood was up and they got off their horses. I'm trying to look in let me just see if this makes sense. So you often like hang out at the stable, is that right?
Yeah, I certainly could be there.
Yeah. Um, anyway, the figure in the cloak noticed you and uh, kind of peeled off from the others that were heading off to the fur and skin uh, stall and got off the horse. And when they got off the horse, they took off the hood, and it was a thin, kind of elderly man, and he approached you and said, "There's something special about you."
Thank you, grandfather. Far too few people would be of that opinion.
You are finding your way in the world, but you seem to be destined for something significant, something something that will certainly impress others and help others.
I certainly do try to help others around the village. Kind of looking around like, you're looking at me when you're saying this, right? Like,
Um, the old man kind of comes up to you and says, "Could I see your hands?"
and this is probably not as strange for Daphne as it might be for some other people. Like,
Right.
of course.
Um, okay, so he starts to look at your palm and both hands, and kind of takes one hand and kind of looks at the lines in your hand, also looks up at your face and kind of touches your face a few times. And you see different emotions that kind of run through his face. I mean, they're uh, points of curiosity. Sometimes he seems a little concerned. Sometimes he seems a little confused. Um, but finally, he looks up at you, stares you straight in the eye, and says, "The time for action on your part is coming sooner than you think. I do see dark and evil things before you. I do see things underground that would have been best to have remained underground, but they are not underground anymore. But I see you involved in a good way in helping to combat what is emerging from the ground. And I give you my blessing." And he touches you on your forehead.
Does that have any sort of noticeable effect, or is it more ceremonial rather than like actually magical?
Um, it does, it's, this seems a little strange to you, right? I mean, this unusual encounter. There does seem to be something kind of some kind of energy that seems to be passing through his touch when he kind of gives you that blessing. Okay. That it does seem like more than just a touch. There's some type of electricity or power behind it.
Did you study with Evelyn?
Did I study with Evelyn? No, I did not study with her, but I have run across Evelyn in my wanderings. and she is a good woman. Um, you know, he will give you a name. He will tell you his name. Um, uh, his name is Tedor,
Theodore.
kind of like a shortened form of Theodore, but without the H in there, but like Theodore, right? Um, and yeah, he says that you know, if you see Evelyn, you can certainly tell her that you had a conversation with Theodore. Okay, and
Okay.
this is going to have a mechanical benefit to you. Um, this is going to give you an additional fortune point for this adventure. Okay, so you'll have an additional point that you can use. Let's actually, before we do this, quickly, I want to go to uh, Tanner. Uh, when you get back to the village with this rock, do you do anything?
Um, I mean, how do you figure things? How do you figure things out about stuff in this game? Like, I'm trying to figure out what this is or if it's useful or something like that. Like, I have ideas like how my character might do it. But is there like a mechanical way that I need to engage with this, or is it?
I mean, you could, you know, if you thought that there was somebody at the village
Mm-hmm.
that could be useful. I mean, a village like this, for example, there would be a blacksmith. So, you know, somebody who knows something about kind of metals. If you wanted to approach the blacksmith, you could do that. If you have like other ideas on your own, you can certainly kind of uh, explore.
Yeah, I think I would probably talk with a blacksmith as long as it doesn't seem like I'm about to bring him something that's, worth getting killed over. Like, I didn't just find like a giant rock of gold that, like, oh, I can lift that from you or anything like that.
Um, uh, well, and the what you're concerned that the blacksmith would try to take it or
Well, just if this seems like it's something incredibly valuable, like I probably would try and keep it quiet. But if it just seems like I don't know what this is and it kind of looks like a rock, like, but I think there's metal in it, then maybe
all right.
taking it to the
Okay,
blacksmith wouldn't be a
so
big
let's do
deal.
this. Let's first of all, why don't you do a wisdom roll on
Okay.
this? Okay, and we'll see what that.
Okay, I got an 8, so I'm still good.
The kind of meeting hall in at the center of town, um, called Heffen's Tier. And Heaven's Tier gets its name because it does have like inside it, like in the center of the building, there is a kind of large. It looks like a large kind of hunk of metal. Now what you have been carrying doesn't exactly look like that, but uh, I mean, it seems kind of slightly different. It's certainly not as big as the what is there. The color is not exactly the same, but you know, Heffen's Tier. The idea of Heffen's Tier is that there's a legend around this big hunk that's kind of laying down there. That you recall that the legend is that kind of heaven one night was weeping, and that right, it was kind of related to perhaps, you know, stars that were shooting across the sky, and it was like in the distant past. The legend is that the village was kind of in some state of crisis then, and there was a kind of you know, a kind of blight on the land, and that right, one night there was this kind of intense kind of meteor shower or something that was kind of happening, and you know, there was kind of talk of like something that fell from the sky. They think during this meteor shower, and they kind of hauled this huge. It took like a pack of horses to kind of haul the stone, but it was kind of then placed in the middle of the inn. And as I say, it doesn't seem exactly the same thing, but it seems like it may be kind of the same type of thing, right? I mean, it's kind of related in some way to that legend.
Okay, it's kind of cool. Um, yeah, I mean, as long as it doesn't seem like, yeah, like it seems like it's probably okay to talk with the blacksmith about it. Maybe just be vague and don't tell anybody that there's a bunch more of it or anything like that.
Yeah, and I would say that generally I mean, this is a close knit village. I mean, that generally speaking, within the village, there you don't really have a lot of scoundrels, generally speaking, that are kind of walking around the village, especially ones who've kind of set up business there. That they tend to be kind of upstanding people. So you approach the blacksmith. We need to kind of dig into our names. We'll call him. So this is. I need to keep my name straight too. We'll call him Antil, not Ant Hill, but Antil, Antil. Um,
Okay.
and so you approach him, and it's not easy to hide this big stone. I mean, it's heavy. You have to kind of like be kind of carrying it, but you kind of step in, and he notices you kind of laboring under this kind of stone, and says, Tanner, what brings you here, and what kind of rock do you have?
I think you're the one who knows more about rocks, but I think it's got metal in it. And I wanted to see if it's metal worth making anything out of or if it's not good metal. Figured you might be able to tell me that too.
So he says, yeah, well, of course, bring it over here. And he kind of directs you to kind of the area where he has the anvil and some of his tools there, and it's kind of near the fire of the forge. And he starts to he's very curious about it. He says, "Oh, I mean, he mentions Heaven's Tier. He says, kind of, it kind of seems like stuff related to Heaven's Tier, but this does seem different." And he starts to poke it and kind of tap on it with his hammer. Um, he says, this I'm not sure exactly what this is, but he gets more and more excited the more he does, because he says, this is this is strong stuff. This is if somebody could forge this, uh, it would make quite the sturdy tool or weapon, if one wanted to go in that direction.
Hmm. Can your I like look over his shop and look at his forge, which I imagine is kind of a modest forge. Can your forge get hot enough? I can lend my arm to the bellows, but
Yeah, he's willing to make a try of it. Um, I think what we will say here is that he does think that he thinks he will be able to forge it, but he's going to have to run his fire at an intensity that is more intense than what he normally would do. And he tells you that if you could come back in a couple days, when he can kind of have things kind of set up, he would be willing to make a try of it.
okay. Um, cool. I think. I think I like the sound of that. I think this sounds like an opportunity to have some really, really good tools or weapons or armor made. And goodness knows we need some more of those around here. What with one thing and another, goblins and flying beasts and whatnot. So I'll try and run down some of my friends, Martin and Drake or Daphne, and see if they want to help me haul the big rock closer to town, someplace we could have it closer to hand, and it doesn't walk off on us.
I was thinking maybe, so my character has this special sword. I was thinking maybe it was made out of some of this meteorite metal that had fallen in the previous days. So it might remind you of the sword that I keep talking about because I'm a big talker.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If it's similar to that, then I definitely want to look about getting this stuff secured and made into things. I mean, this is a windfall for any of us if we can manage to make something of it, and we can manage to get the blacksmith to do something with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the rock that you have, I mean, you could forge, depends on the size of it, but probably one or two good things out of that. Of course, if that big rock, if you manage to get the bigger piece, right, there's even more stuff there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, getting all of the crew together to try and transport. If it seems like the kind of thing 4 of us could work together to try and move, or come up with a plan to try and move it, that seems like it might be worth our time. I mean, and if we don't secure it, goblins might find it.
Okay, so do you want to kind of gather your friends together later that day?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine some people will meet at the tier later on, and I might just wait for that. Like, I don't know if it's urgent to actually go out. I'll probably tell them I want to talk with them later at the tier,
Okay.
And see what other news they might have. But yeah.
Okay, so if it's okay, then do we want to just fast forward to that meeting at the end of the? I would say that the way I imagine the tier is, very common that at the end of the day, this is the place of the village where it's very common people kind of go there to kind of relax, perhaps roll the dice or tell stories of the day. So you all kind of meet up at the tier, and I guess you've told them that you want to meet up. They're probably kind of curious, Tanner, as to what.
So yeah, we cut in and me taking my sword out and slapping it on the table and said, "Did it look like this? Did the metal have this same dull appearance?"
Maybe I managed to get the blacksmith to break me off a little chunk, and I could put it on the table and we can compare.
It's a near match.
It seems possible to you. I would say you kind of look at it and it seems like possible that there's a match.
Whether it's identical or not, blacksmith said it's good, so there's a lot more where this came from. I just need help getting it.
I slept very well last night. I feel like I could take on 1,000 goblins. Let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's go get it.
Where did you say that you found it?
It's in the woods. I'll teach you. I'll show you.
Underground?
No.
Oh.
Okay. I slept like garbage in a library, and I think I overheard some kind of cultists. It could have been another nightmare. I don't. Yeah, sure. Let's go get some rocks.
You have to stop sleeping in the library.
You have to mind your own business.
Your health is my business.
Whatever. I like books.
I don't know why you like books, but whatever.
I can't even read, but let's go.
All right. I imagine like this meeting. I'm imagining taking place like in the late afternoon. Right, that would be the time that right people would have the time to kind of relax and such. When do you all want to leave? Do you want to leave immediately, or are you going to plan to make a start in the morning?
Uh, Tanner, how long will it take to walk there?
I don't remember how far out is it. Do we have any chance of going and coming back before it's just like super late?
No, because you were you had been out there and had kind of gone out pretty far because you knew that you couldn't make it. The reason why you were
Yeah.
sleeping out there was because it was some distance.
Yeah, so I think we can go where I made camp before and make an early start of it, but it's a bit far. So um bring tools though. Anybody got tools for hauling, ropes, nets, anything?
Eh,
We must have something in the manor house we could use.
A horse? Y'all have a horse anymore?
We could go talk to somebody in the morning, ask if we can borrow a horse.
I imagine Oswald would let us have one. You have a pretty good relationship.
A horse and a
Yeah.
cart, maybe.
Yeah, if we can get it in a cart, at least the horse could haul it. But yeah, if we could get it in a cart, certainly. I don't know though. I don't know if a cart could make it to this spot.
Drake, wouldn't your father have a horse you could lend us?
Um, I don't spend a lot of time in the stables. They don't keep books there, but I could ask.
I
It's a
mean,
plan.
could you ask for forgiveness and just get one?
Let me check real quick that my wisdom score is pretty low. And yeah, I don't see why not.
Drake, my friend, let us rest. Here, take this. Make some tea. Drink this tonight. You'll feel much better tomorrow.
Nice.
I give him a dose of the special tea.
Great.
Okay.
Don't sleep in the library.
So if he gets a dose of it, then like the next day he will have the +1 to his constitution for a day.
Nice.
Yeah. Drake, do you want to pursue that line when you get back to the castle?
Sure. Why not?
And who are you gonna be asking? You're trying to acquire a kind of pack horse.
Yeah.
Does that seem like the kind of thing that a seneschal would know anything about?
Maybe. Uh,
Can I be with him to have my haggling as part of it? I have a haggling skill.
yes, and you can if you have okay. There's a rule about helping. If you have a skill that applies to what somebody else is trying to do, you can add that skill as a bonus. And the other thing about helping is you can, if you want to if you want to expend a fortune point, even if you don't have the skill, you can pay a fortune point to assist.
Right. So yeah, I was trying to help without using the fortune point because I have haggling. Maybe that'll
Correct.
help in the situation. Okay.
Yep.
That's good, because if you think my wisdom's unimpressive, wait till you see my charisma.
Oh boy. Drake, maybe I should do the talking. None of us is very charismatic, but
Yes.
So yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the seneschal.
The seneschal Aubrey is actually like a chess master. They've never lost a game, at least not as far as Drake's ever seen. We've often met to play games of strategy and skill. Super consumed by their duties, but always seem to have time for me. And for the other noble kids, but that was what was sort of impressive about it, is that treated me no differently from any of the other kids, and that was always had a soft spot.
Okay, and how old do you imagine Aubrey to be?
One of those people who looks like they could be anywhere between 40 and 60, and you really just can't tell.
Okay. Um, so, and for this kind of a conversation, where would you uh, bring this up? I mean, would you go seeking Aubrey, or would you?
Yeah, yeah. Who would often be taking care of some kind of oh, I don't know. Do seneschals do paperwork? Let's say that there's a room with a big desk in it,
Mhm.
and lots of papers coming and going, um, brought by other servants or what have you. Maybe by bird. I don't know how these things work. I've never
Mhm.
lived in a castle, but yes, I have. I've grown up in this castle, and there's a room with papers and stuff, and servants that I presume are bringing things by bird.
Mhm. Okay, and Aubrey is pretty busy, but in the midst of this, and it's also probably busy in this room. People are periodically kind of coming in. Aubrey is kind of giving asking questions or sending people off to take care of some things around the castle.
Mm-hmm.
But you come in and Aubrey kind of looks up at you and says that the day is. Would this be in the evening or in the morning that you would be asking for this?
We went straight from the bar, right? From the gathering, so it's like later in the late afternoon, early evening.
Okay. Yeah. So Aubrey says, Drake. I'm kind of busy right now, but do you need something?
You know, I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate to go straight to the stable master. I didn't want to make it look like I was going behind your back or anything, but I have an important errand to retrieve some kind of strange object fallen from the heavens, and we could really use a horse and a cart for it. And I just wanted to check in with you and make sure that wasn't going to cause any kind of problems. Just to borrow those briefly, real
Uh,
quick. We'll have those back real soon.
oh, okay. Horse and cart, but
Mhm.
something falling from the heavens?
Yes. I did not see this. Maybe Martin's with me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Martin. Maybe you can explain that one a little bit better.
Yeah, I saw it, and you know the legends of Evelyn of Heaven's Tear. Remember all the fabulous things that fell to earth and made everyone rich in the village? Well, it's happening again. This is your opportunity. All we need is that cart and horse, and we'll be able to bring it right back to the village. And you'll be sure to get a nice cut of the profits.
Now, how did you all find out about this thing falling from the heavens? Did you
Our
see
friend
it?
Tanner is the most wondrous woodsman of all of us, and was happened to be nearby and brought back a sample.
All right, let's go on and do that charisma roll now. We'll just get a sense of how Aubrey is going to be taking this.
So you get a +2 from me.
Oh, I'm rolling charisma with your wow.
Or do you
Okay,
want
here
me
we
to do
go.
it?
Yeah,
Who rolls? Robbie, who rolls this?
I think it should be Drake just because I mean you're a
Sure.
villager and the seneschal is just the kind of attitude that Aubrey would have towards the villager, right? I think Drake is the more familiar presence here.
All right,
Okay.
here we go then. I am rolling with a net +1, I believe. Wait, do I want to roll high or low?
Low.
You want to
That's
roll up?
great. I rolled a 1.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was laughing at my
And you
horrible
actually,
luck.
the
But
-1
fact,
doesn't matter. You just want to roll your stat or less.
my
Yeah,
stat or less. Beautiful.
Yeah.
correct. And it is it is the system where like a one is always a critical on this type of roll is always a critical success, and a 20 is always an automatic
So
failure.
Bring out your bad dice.
this so my charm It's legendary this time.
All right. Well, so with that kind of a role, um, Aubrey is increasingly interested in what you have to say, and not only interested, but Aubrey gets increasingly looking very kind of serious and intent, and says, "I will give you uh, a horse and a cart, but well, you need to know about another event that has happened earlier today. Of course, you weren't in the castle. You're usually not in the castle during the day, but somebody came to the castle a few days ago asking to um, consult books in our library. Um, I don't know much about this person, but uh, she was here a couple days reading in the library. She then said that she wanted to investigate the surrounding countryside. I don't know. I thought maybe she was just wanting to kind of take in the glorious views. But she came back earlier today, and she was terrified. I don't know uh, entirely what happened, but she said that she was out north of the castle in the woods, and well, I mean, she was so terrified it was hard to kind of get any kind of a story out of her. But she was complaining about how she shouldn't have done it, how um, that there are some things that are better off left undisturbed. I mean, kind of this kind of crazy talk. Now, where did you say you were going to go with this cart?
To the village.
Okay.
To the. I think we were talking about seeing if the blacksmith could do anything with the material.
Well,
Is
we got
that
to go
right?
get it. Where was
Right.
it relative
Oh,
to the village? Was it north of the village?
I don't remember.
David, Robbie, where was this spot where
It
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 fell?
it was
Yeah.
north. It was north of
North?
the
Okay.
village. Yeah.
Tell me, Aubrey, did you catch a name on this person and where they might be right now?
Oh, she's trying to rest in her room in the castle. And her name is um her name is Elira. She came from the south. She seemed a little strange and but pretty smart. I mean, she kind of was intent on some of those books that we keep in our library.
Well, that sounds like strange woman. Sounds like Daphne. And books sounds like Drake. So maybe we should go talk to her. Maybe we should get Daphne and go have a talk with this intelligent woman. What do you think, Drake?
Yeah, I was just trying to jot down that name in case it comes up again later.
Elira, is that what it was?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
out of character, I'll say to you that I put that in the important people part of our character keeper, along with Rock the Transborn. I guess I'll mention, as long as we're throwing names around, um, Seneschal here, Aubrey, excuse me. Does the name Rock the Transborn mean anything to you? It was probably just a bad dream, but just in case I did overhear a cultist in the library or something, I just figured I'd
No,
check in with you.
she they shake scratch their head and Aubrey says, "No, sounds like a name from a children's book. Have you been reading kind of, I don't know, like strange fairy tales in that library?"
I don't discriminate in the material that I read. You talk about strange fairy tales, there are literal goblins outside. I don't there are literal fairies. I don't understand why you people keep making You know what? I'm sorry. We don't have to have this conversation again right now. Yes, it was probably just a dream. But if you happen to come across anybody named Rock the Transborn who is risen, let me know in case it wasn't a dream. We should go talk to Elira. How do you spell that?
It's in
It's
the chat.
yeah, Elyra, Elyra.
Elyra. Hey, that's how I spelled it. Wow. You pronounced it very phonetically. Thank you. Yeah, let's go. She's resting.
Yeah, she was Aubrey says she has was totally shaken by whatever it was out there. But who knows what she saw? As I say, she's been kind of hard. It's been hard for her to articulate what it was that happened.
Well, we should go give her a chat, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll say, tell you what, um, I'll go get the other, I'll get Daphne and Tanner. I'll start getting the horse and the cart ready. I'm pretty worthless when it comes to talking to people uh, that read books. So you guys, see what she knows. And I'll get the horse and stuff ready and bring the other two, let her rest for a little while, and we'll go from there.
Sounds great.
Okay, so the meeting with Elira and you can meet with her. Is that just going to be Drake, or are you planning to kind of go and come back with the crew?
I thought I'd bring back the crew.
Okay. All right. So
It's not very far, right? I mean, the keep or whatever is not too far from the village, I imagine.
yeah, I think it probably maybe takes the round trip probably is like an hour and a half that would take.
Okay. Gives her time to rest for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the success on that role, right? I mean Aubrey is says I don't know what you will get from her, but Aubrey lets you know where Elira is staying. She has a room near the library that they have kind of put her up at. So should we just fast forward to that meeting then? Um, all right, so we'll put you in front of the door to Elira's room. Uh, it's a kind of quiet hallway. This is like a place of the castle where guests would be staying, and yeah, it's quiet and the door is closed.
Like, look at is it all four of us, or is it just the three of us?
I think it's just the three of you. I think I'm like taking care of the horse.
Okay. So it's Tanner, Daphne, and Drake.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I look at Drake. I look at Daphne. I'm like, isn't this woman supposed to be afraid? Are we going to disturb her? The three of us. Maybe we should leave a note. I don't know.
The green scaly guy is like, what? No.
Like, fine, my charisma's 8. Don't worry about it.
I brought some books. She loves books. She came all the way here to look at books.
Another reason maybe a note would work. She likes reading. I don't know.
I'm wondering how much Martin actually told us about this person, or Drake, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know all of what Aubrey had said anyway. Okay.
Yeah, something about reading books and taking in the sights and regrets, which I know a little bit about. So I think that we'll be able to connect over that.
All right. Well, we probably freaked her out by talking outside her door for this long. So just knock on it.
Um, so you knock. The door doesn't immediately open, but after a few seconds, the door opens, and there's a woman She's about 30 years old. She's um, I mean, she does, kind of have this bearing to her that she's tall. She kind of is holding herself, upright. She has kind of short black hair, um, and she's wearing kind of traveling clothes. Um, but she also looks like she had been kind of kind of reclining in her bed, right? She's kind of her hair is mussed up a little bit and stuff, but she's kind of opens and says, "Yes."
Sorry to bother you, Miss. My name's Tanner. This is Drake and Daphne. We heard that you might have been traveling in the woods in the north, and we happen to be venturing out there early tomorrow morning, and thought you might have seen something we should know about. We didn't mean to bother you, though.
And her hand goes up to her mouth and says, um the woods to the north. Well, I was up there, but um I would implore you not to travel that way.
Is it the kind of thing you wouldn't mind telling us about? I mean, if you need to have a sit and a drink, we can go to the tier and you can tell us there. But wasn't sure how your disposition would be. We heard it might be a strange thing you saw.
I, I'm I'm foolish for things that I've done. I was up there to the north. I I thought I was going to. Well, I had heard that there were structures up there, that there were ancient buildings, um, and I was going to seek whether some of these legends that I had read about these ancient buildings were true. But some of the legends talked about horrible things, and there are horrible things. And she turns to Daphne and says, "Really, my advice is to leave leave it all alone. Leave it where it is and don't take this further." And she reaches out to Daphne and takes her right hand and touches you on the cheek. And her hand is cold, like unusually cold.
Are, are you all right, ma'am? You've clearly had quite a fright. You may be in shock. I, if you let us in, I could brew you a tea that I think would restore some of your vigor.
Yeah, at this, she's been trying to hold herself up, like in a kind of regal posture. But when you say, "Are you all right?" Maybe you could help. She kind of slumps over. Clearly, it was partly an act, and she kind of goes and kind of collapses on her little bed that they have left, and she is like she's kind of weeping and says that there are terrors up there, absolute terrors.
And just to make sure I understand what she's talking about, that is also where we were planning to head, where the meteorite was in the
Um,
north.
at least it's the same direction. Yes. I mean, it's not necessarily right where the meteorite is, but
But
it's
it's
yeah. She's afraid that you're kind of heading off to the north, and she was up in the north when she did this.
and she said leave it there, which could refer to what we're thinking about, but maybe not.
Mhm.
So I kind of give a nod to the other two that, like, maybe see to her, and I'm gonna see if I can't get her something a little bit restorative to make her feel better, uh, and maybe loosen up her tongue a little bit.
Okay, now, are you gonna be for this applying one of your traits or spells or?
I have herbalism as a
Hmm.
skill,
Hmm.
and I don't know that I have a spell that would work. Druid's Touch, I think, is mostly about growing things.
Hmm.
So I think it would pretty much just be herbalism and maybe a shot of whiskey in whatever I'm making as well.
All right, so let's I think it's with herbalism, it's possible that you carry some herbs and things around with you, but let's give that a shot and see what happens. So it seems like this is going to be intelligence, and you'll get the bonus with the herbalism skill.
Okay, so I look at my intelligence, and then I would add 2 to that because of the skill,
Correct.
and I roll under that.
Correct.
All right, that's
Don't
pretty
roll
good.
20.
Yeah, I was going to say I've got a great chance until you said that. Now it's
Oh, sorry.
how did I roll a 23? 18. So
Ooh.
but still.
Okay, so that's a success, and so it has some positive effect on her. It does seem to kind of get her a little bit more kind of relaxed. She seems to be getting her sense of equilibrium, and you know she'll just say that, oh, thank you very much. I feel better. I don't feel quite restored back to 100%, but I feel better. Um, and she'll just relate that going up into the North Woods is a bad idea. She'll go over to one of she has some books on a little table, and she goes over to one of those books, opens it up, and the book does relate a legend of some ancient I don't know, you call it ancient race or some kind of ancient group of people that inhabited this land eons ago, and that left kind of buildings and structures that some of the kind of old ruins and things that people have seen in this area are kind of connected to this kind of ancient group of people that used to inhabit this land. And she says, I went looking for this, um, and I should not have done that. I mean, I had a sense that there may still be kind of powers lurking up there, and lo and behold, there certainly were.
Well, we 3 would certainly heed your advice. Our friend is much too rash to listen to reason. He has a legacy to live up to, and he will be striking north come the morrow. Without your insight and your wisdom, he'll be walking into it blind.
You would ask me to go up there again?
Oh no, I wouldn't want to risk you again. But any details you can give of the pitfalls, so that we can prepare him. I know we could never stand to see him go alone.
All I can tell you is don't do it. It is territory that really should just be kind of put out of mind. Just tell people that it is untamed land, that there is nothing there worth seeking, and if your friend insists on going up there, make it a quick journey. And don't go poking around up in those hills. And certainly if you see ruins, avoid them. There is no good there.
Well, we weren't looking for ruins, so.
I mean, we weren't before, but now.
Fast forward, Opening ruins.
It's like, I am really excited about these ruins now. You're doing the thing as a chance. Like those adults are like, definitely don't do this thing. Like, I'm definitely doing that thing.
Yes, of course.
Don't push this red button.
Well, that sounds like about all that you really want to say on the matter. And I don't want to push too much further, but I will ask, do you know anybody named Rock the Transformed?
Over here.
Just, does that name come up? Maybe it was just a dream. Don't worry about it. Rock.
When you say that name, she turns pale. She does.
You do know him. I told you it wasn't a dream.
Well, and she turns pale, and she says, "It is best to forget that name. I don't know where you learned that name, but
It was the library. We love books. Here.
I used to love books, but I tell you, the knowledge that I've gotten from them and where that has led me is awful. It's awful. I mean, it's clear with Rock, she knows that name, but she also is now, and I think at that point she's also saying, "Leave me now. Remember my earnest advice. Leave it alone."
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about the
throwing out that name.
I'll just leave these books. No, you said so. Sorry, I'll just take them. It was good to meet you.
I'm thinking that's probably a good place to end for tonight, and I would be kind of just interested in kind of quickly going around for a couple minutes and kind of get your reaction, things that you are liking about Beyond the Wall, and things that you're kind of interested in for next week. At this point, I'm just going to go kind of around my screen. Start with Jason Zanes.
I like the characters. It's nice, like the game, like the question or like the rolling the dice creates these characters kind of organically, and seeing them grow through these scenes. The last second half of our session, I really like what Keith just did right there, where he like saw about my character being kind of like focused on trying to like be a hero and being single-minded. So that definitely I like that he kind of caught that and laid that out there for me.
Okay. And anything you're wanting for our next session?
No, I think it's good so far.
Good.
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay. Keith, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I love character creation in this. Like, it's one of those where I could just do that and then say, okay, I don't even need to play it. It's just it really stings and makes something that I wouldn't have necessarily made on my own.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's really fun, and to see it happen for everyone else too makes it an interesting group. And I think for next time, I really like the group scenes. We had a lot of vignette stuff where it was kind of like a
Mhm.
lot of downtime. And I know with the online stuff, I get focus issues when it's like I'm not jumping into stuff. So it's harder to pay attention when it's not multiple people in the scene. So definitely would be interested in pushing towards more of that.
Okay. David, go to you next.
Yeah, I really like the character creation process. Is a lot of fun. Thanks for facilitating this, um, and like not requiring us to know all the bits to play it because it's a bit more. There's a bit more going on than some other games, but I think you walk us through it really well. I'm liking where this is shaping up towards an adventure out to the north. Seems like there's a good bit of we have a MacGuffin to go out there, but we also have some ruins and things that have been mentioned that are like a part of. I think they're part of my story, my character creation backstory thing. So that's exciting to see kind of what that's about. Um, but yeah, I don't think I'm just interested to see what's going to happen.
Okay. Cool. And the other Jason.
Yeah, I too like character creation. I do feel like the particular playbook I got and the combination of roles I got both resulted in a character that's like, oh, this is really interesting, but also like it turns out I actually got forbidden knowledge 3 times. So like I'm really good at forbidden knowledge, but it also feels like, no, it'd be nice to get something else in there. And I think there's enough going on in there that I missed that I think I'm probably still on the hook to create another NPC. So that was a little confusing, but I do like the process a lot. And it encouraged me to go find a green scaly guy for my character sheet, so that was cool. And I'll concur too that my favorite parts are the ones where there's multiple of us there at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to actually going beyond the wall. So that's cool. And I'm glad that there are like multiple hooks going on out there too. So it's like, we're probably going to get a meteor and maybe go into some ruins and maybe find some guy named Rock. Yeah, I'm curious to see where that'll lead us. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly where this goes as well. The idea beyond the wall, part of it is that they want it to be a kind of system where you can kind of sit down, quickly create characters, and then be off to the races. Now, I am when I was kind of looking at the scenario packs, I was like, I'm not really equipped to kind of quite take it off to the races then. But what I like as a GM from this side is I like the way that the scenario packs kind of start kind of pulling in all of these aspects of the different kind of characters to kind of play with. And so it kind of gives you a kind of adventure or kind of this kind of interesting dynamic situation, but it's really kind of doing a lot of that through what the players are kind of bringing to it through the character creation process. And I'm glad now that I have a week because I have a lot of things that I mean already my mind is like kind of working on, and oh, this is so cool, like how I can kind of pull those things together. I'm not necessarily equipped to like do it the beyond the wall way where they say, oh, you could just immediately dive into it. But I think for me right now, having a week's time to kind of like start really kind of look at my notes and stuff like that, I think that there's a lot of like cool things that are in store. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. These kinds of games, like you either do a session 0 and then stop, or you do like a little bit of adventure and then come back the next week and really it starts to sing.
Mhm.
Like when the game master has a week to think about it and get some ideas meshed together.
Yeah.
So I agree completely with that idea.
Okay. But I'll plan on being here same time next week. And if you have any kind of questions or other things that come to mind during the week, feel free to shoot me an email. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Robbie.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
You're very
See you
welcome.
next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.